Going. All right, please make sure you click the right little message. Zoom probably just popped up to stay in the meeting. Earlier today, I was in a meeting where somebody hit the record button in Zoom and I clicked the wrong option and instantly I was kicked out of that meeting. Well, I kicked myself out. So anyway, thank you guys for joining today. I'm Karen Findler, KP. I'm going to be your host today for our monthly Eloqua user group meeting. We meet every third Thursday of the month at the same time, 11 Eastern. I realize it's 5 in the UK and, well, even later for folks around the world in some spots. So no perfect time to do this thing, but we thankfully have had a good amount of folks coming outside of North America, predominantly we've had India, we had somebody from China, we've had quite a few folks in the UK and parts of EMEA. So thank you around the world for joining. I really appreciate you guys taking the time. If you have to leave early, no worries. I'm going to send you the recording probably a couple hours after this meeting ends today. So real quick, who the heck am I? Well, there's me. I think this was Memorial Day weekend a couple of weeks ago. Those are my 2 pups. We have 3 pups and 3 cats. I'm a senior MarTech consultant at Sojourn. We're one of Oracle's many partners. We focus only on Oracle Marketing Cloud and Adobe Marketing Cloud, or whatever they call it, Experience Cloud, Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So we're really honed in on helping people, and my career has been spent as a marketer the first 4 years, before that in sales support at Under Armour, which I thought was Armor All, but anyway, and then my last 12 years has been as a consultant and helping people with mainly marketing automation, but also marketing strategies, like stepping outside the technologies and just talking about like, well, it makes sense. Some of this it's not common sense. Some of it's like you learn it from doing it over the years or from reading an article where you heard about how a company just like yours kicked butt with it. So maybe we can learn something from that. So I've worked with lots of companies over the years, and specifically with marketing automation, that's my core area of expertise. And I guess what's helped me to lead this Eloqua user group. So it's 16 years for me in using Eloqua, and I am one of our Eloqua admins here at Sojourn. And I love our dogs and cats. I'm based out of the Nashville area, like 30 minutes outside of the city. As you can see, this is not really the city. We have quite a bit of land that we don't do much with, but hang out with our pups and mow it. I wanted to start with something not even at all related to Eloqua, so just bear with me for a second. Happy Juneteenth. If you don't know what that is, I'm privileged to be able to explain it to you. I didn't know what it was until recently. So Juneteenth, if you didn't know, the United States has a horrible, hopefully everybody here knows this, but horrible background with slavery and enslaving African Americans over the last couple of hundreds of years ago. And June 19th, 1865, which is not hundreds of years ago, so this is crazy how recent it actually is, there were still people enslaved, about 250,000 people in Texas alone, and that there were other states as well that were not supposed to be keeping people as slaves, but they still were, even though the former President Lincoln had signed the Emancipation Proclamation. I'm not a political major, I'm not an expert on this, but what I get of it is, unfortunately, like that doesn't even put words to it appropriately, there were still hundreds of thousands of human beings enslaved, all African Americans, and it wasn't until June 19th that it officially was told to them that they were freed, that the government actually had protections for them. So June 19th, as of this week in the United States, is going to become a federal holiday. So I believe they're going to stick with the name June 19th, but you might also hear it referred to as Freedom Day, Jubilee Day, Liberation Day, Emancipation Day. So I hope and encourage you, if your organization does not celebrate this as a federal holiday, hopefully they will. It's very new as far as it being officially a federal US holiday as of this week. But myself at Sojourn, if June 19th falls on, say, a Wednesday, hopefully our business will have that as a paid holiday to remember and commemorate June 19th and all of the things to remember that day, like we have various other federal holidays. So, all right. Now for what you came here for, not to hear me talk about that, but here's our agenda. we're going to do a quick poll to help understand a little bit more about each other on this call. Right now we have about 40 people here. I'll quickly go through, as I do every month, our relevant reminders to help you stay in the Eloqua know, things I would want to know if I wasn't keeping track of this stuff myself by running the meeting. Then we're going to have Dave from Motiva AI. He's their co-founder and CEO. He's going to present to us some things that they have done, specifically an app for Eloqua, to help improve email engagement. Probably everybody here uses email as a channel, if not your number one marketing channel to communicate with your customers and prospects. So I think it's important to know what possibilities are out there to improve email engagement. And this is one that's awesome. So I'm looking forward to Dave presenting. He presented to our team at Sojourn, I think it was a week or two ago. And I was like, we need to let users know about this if they don't already. And then I will be the other presenter to present Eloqua cleaning tips. It was going to be done last month as spring cleaning tips, but it's not really spring anymore, depending on where you live, I guess. But so I'll go through that pretty quickly. And then we'll end with the open forum. I believe there's a user, hopefully she is here, who is going to ask a question. If yes, Carly is here. And if anybody else has any questions or tips, it doesn't have to be about the topics we're going through today. It could be about anything Eloqua related or marketing related. You know, feel free to type your questions in the Q&A or leave it at the end, and I can allow you to talk by clicking the allow you to talk button in Zoom. So happy to do that. Again, I'm going to send you this recording after the presentations are done, a couple hours later today. So you can expect to receive that email from me this afternoon. Well, it might be evening for you. So real quick, let me launch the poll. 3 questions here for you guys. So how long, let me launch it. How long have you been an Eloqua user? So I'll give this a minute for folks to answer and before we end it and share the results. This is where if I was super cool, I'd have a DJ that would pop up and be like making some music go or something. I think Adobe does that, and Drift is really good with doing that, but they have like a half-a-day conference online and they have DJs and it's entertaining if you're into that kind of thing. Okay, I'm going to end the poll and share the results with you guys. So it looks like we have the majority of you, so 20% are 1 to 3 years of Eloqua experience, and then we're tied with people who have less than a year, 7 to 9 years, or 10 plus years. And there's a little bit of there's like 3 folks with 5 to 7 years. So a pretty good spread here today. We are finding that the majority of people that come to this meeting consistently are in their 1 to 3 year mark. My goal with the content is to have it be relevant to have content switched up so that it's relevant whether you're 1 month in or 12 years in. So we're trying to help keep the content fresh. If there's ever any ideas for topics or feedback on how we can make this meeting better, I just reiterate that each month. Please let me know. I'm open to it. Won't take anything offensively or to the offense. Or however you say that. I'm trying to do too many things at once. All right, launch poll. The next question is, which areas do you struggle with most with Eloqua? You can pick a few. Please don't pick all of them because then it kind of makes it hard to see where you're most challenged, but I'd say pick maybe 2. Love to see where people are having their greatest challenges. And we do have other at the bottom. So if you don't see, this isn't every area of Eloqua, right? There's not social, there's not mobile, there's things missing. I took out reporting because everybody almost always picks reporting. So we heard loud and clear from users, and I've heard it in other settings as well, not just Eloqua user group meetings, that Eloqua reporting is 99% of the time, whenever you ask any setting of Eloqua users, that's what they'll say is reporting is their greatest challenge. So we've covered that a few times and we're going to come back to it. And actually my next question relates to it. So my next poll question. All right, so let me stop the poll and share the results so you all can see. And we've got number 1, Eloqua CRM integration. And then tied with that, but just behind it, actually by like a few votes, data management, segmentation or targeting, And then probably tied for third place is scoring and nurturing, and then admin tips. So like I said, I know reporting is usually at the very top of folks' lists, and now we've got CRM integration. So this tells me, it gives me ideas of topics for future meetings. Somebody actually reached out to me last week and said, is there an Eloqua user group for the Salesforce integration app? I was like, no, but that's a good idea. Not that I'm aware of, but that's a good idea. Somebody also gave an idea of why don't we revisit? We had a presenter from Oracle on the product team talk to us about the latest greatest with the integration app. I think we've done that twice now. So we'll revisit that. If you have another CRM integration you're referring to, please put it in either the chat. If you want to do it privately to me or publicly, it's fine. But that's what I believe probably most of you are having challenges with or struggling with. So we will revisit that in an upcoming Eloqua user group. All right, let me stop sharing that one. One more question, real quick one. Well, hopefully it's quick. So does your marketing team measure marketing revenue attribution?
Good question.
I know everyone typically wants to, but not everybody has to, so they don't. And if you don't know what I mean by that, like, do you measure what you're doing in marketing and the results, like the actual business results it's achieving, meaning revenue specifically, like how much revenue marketing is bringing into the pipeline or influencing perhaps. In some cases, we don't source it, but we do a campaign and it pushes people along to purchase something or to subscribe or to buy a t-shirt, whatever it might be. All right, let me end this one and share the results. And I am pleasantly surprised here. Majority of you are measuring revenue attribution, 42%. And then we've got 33% that say no, 25% aren't sure. I knew we'd have a good number that wouldn't be sure, not necessarily are you responsible for that in your role, so that makes sense. And nobody said it's a secret, so that's good. Usually there's one wise ass that joins this meeting and chooses the wise ass answer that I provide. Answer option. So on another call, I'd love to learn more about how you're doing it, how you're measuring revenue attribution. So we can share with each other ways to do it. It is one area we hear people struggle with, typically with Eloqua reporting. You've got closed loop reporting, which has slowly gotten better. So anyway, be prepared. That'll be something I might reach out to some of you about. And if anybody ever wants to present how you're doing it, whether it's an Eloqua or not, absolutely would love to hear about it or have you present about it, better yet. Okay, let me get rid of the poll and move on. Thank you guys for doing that. It looks like almost everybody participated. So really quick reminders. So the Oracle Marquee Awards, the finalists are going to be announced Tuesday the 29th. So that's not next week, that's the following week. That's pretty awesome. If anybody here becomes a finalist, holy moly, congratulations early. Hopefully this is manifesting that for at least one of the people here joining, or multiple ideally. But it is hard to become a Marquee finalist. It's even harder to win a Marquee award. If you don't know what the heck those are, you can just Google Oracle Marquees, and the website gives you the categories of the Marquees. And basically, it's not just Eloqua specific anymore. That's how it started. They came about, actually, this was probably over 12 years ago. The Eloqua Experience event, in-person event every year happened. It was in Vegas for many years, San Francisco. Then they started thinking, well, we got to do this more globally. In the UK, there was one every year. Pandemic kind of halted a lot of that. But once Oracle bought Eloqua, they changed it a little bit later to the Oracle Marquees. And what that means is not only are there awards for Eloqua customers, but other Oracle Marketing Cloud or CX marketing customers, like those using Responses, DMP, the data management platform, Blue Kai, and other solutions like Infinity and Maximizer. And it's not always about, like, I'm not saying you have to use all of those. It's basically categories where you could be using one of those tools. You could be just using Eloqua and doing some amazing stuff, but usually they want to have metrics to show that you're doing amazing stuff. So keep an eye out for that. What I would say is if you've never submitted for any of those awards, no problem. some people aren't into awards, and I get that. I'm not anymore. I used to be, was a thing I was very interested in, but it doesn't really inspire me anymore. I find I learn a lot from the finalists and the winners. So it's worthwhile to at least look at their success stories and sometimes get ideas, or even further from that, you can say, we were thinking about doing that. That's cool how they did that. They actually won a Marquee for it. We can do this. We don't need to win an award, or maybe you want to. Either way, but it's really good for helping you to think about things you can do to take your marketing to the next level, and specifically your Eloqua. The next thing I want to remind you guys of is that the next Eloqua release, so quarterly releases of Eloqua, 4 times a year if you add up all the quarters in a year. The next one will be August 13th through the 27th. As of now, those dates can change, but it will be the 21C. They do, the way they name these releases is A, B, C, D. So for Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and then 21 is the year, so 2021. So if anybody ever wondered how they named them, that's how that came about. It's not like Eloqua is, well, Eloqua actually has been around, I think, 21 years, 1999. So it's kind of interesting. It does correlate, but it's not, I don't think, intended to. There's not 21 versions of Eloqua out there. So the next thing I just want to remind folks of, because users have asked me over the years, especially this past year, where can I get free training? I know I can buy an education subscription through Oracle, or I can pay a partner like Sojourn for training, but if I just want to get free training, or somebody's hired that we need to give them something to get going, the Eloqua Help Center has great documentation that you can leverage with screenshots and videos embedded in it. Then you've got Oracle University. There's some free training in there. I've got the link to the Eloqua Explorer training path, which is free. It's not going to make anybody a power user, a super duper Eloqua user, but it's a good place to start, or a refresh if you need it. Or if there's somebody in your organization that's like, what is Eloqua? What does it do? Well, you could send them to the Eloqua Explorer, or Eloqua's YouTube channel is where I would probably have them go and pick out one of the videos there that gives an overview of Eloqua, like 101 level information to wrap their head around it, or yours if you need to. I like to go back and look at those to learn, like, what's the newest way Oracle is sharing how to do this specific task in Eloqua, like segmentation. And then if you ever missed one of these Eloqua user group meetings, we have added them all the past recordings to our website. So you can just go to the sojournsolutions.com website. We have a resource center there, and we use Uberflip behind the scenes. Not trying to sell Uberflip here, but just saying that's how we do it. We use WordPress for a CMS. Sometimes it's kind of cool to hear what people use. We use Eloqua as our marketing automation, Salesforce as our CRM, and I'm going to stop there because I might bore you guys with all of our MarTech. If you haven't watched Schitt's Creek and you like dry humor, I highly recommend it. It's hilarious. All right, with that, enough from me for a while. I'm honored to introduce David from Motiva AI. Again, he's going to chat with us about what they've come up with for a great solution at the end of the day to help improve your email engagement, which we all know not only can help us achieve more revenue, but can bring us more close to our customers and our prospects. So with that, David, I'm going to stop screen sharing and show my video and hand it over to you.
Perfect. Do that. And you want to let me turn on my video?
Sure, if you'd like. No pressure.
Why not?
And guys, if you have questions for Dave, just feel free to enter them in the Q&A, and we will do our best to answer them on this call today. If we don't get to anybody's questions, we'll follow up, so via email.
All right.
There we go. We can see your slide now.
Cool. Still can't start my video, but that's okay.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah. Well, hi guys. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it, and thanks KP for hosting this and hosting us. I'm Dave. I'm the co-founder, CEO of Motiva. Been around this marketing automation space for about 5 years with Motiva, but longer background in kind of thinking about how to bring AI to enterprise use cases like this. I was the first product manager for Siri before we sold off to Apple. I swear it was working when it left my lab. So I'm not responsible for anything that happened since. And then after Siri did basically a series of different AI startups in different spaces, and landed with Motiva in thinking about how marketing is done, how specifically how email is marketing is done, and what we could do to bring machine intelligence to help us do these things better. So Motiva has been doing this for about 5 years with the entire Eloqua community. We're still today Eloqua focused, although we're going to start to support the Adobe ecosystem, including Marketo, thinking about Salesforce tools as well, and HubSpot as well. So everything I'll present today will be relevant over there, all over this group, doesn't matter probably. In terms of how to think about us, it's really about impact. So we do all these fancy things in the background with the Motiva Cloud app. And what we're looking for is impact, however the customer kind of defines that. For some customers, it's revenue. So they're running campaigns that are pretty directly tied to some sort of transaction on the other end of that sequence. For others, it's all about engagement. For others, it's about attribution, and I was pleased to see so many of you are taking ROI seriously and measuring that attribution. That's a favorite topic of ours. And really, the goal being, we have all these levers that we can pull with the cloud app, and it's about pulling those, helping Motiva and help you pull those levers in a fully automated fashion. So it takes about 5 minutes to install us on your instance. Super easy. It's not a heavyweight thing. Unlike a lot of other integrations, including that good old Salesforce integration that we all know and love, Motiva is super easy to get into the mix and operating. So after 5 minutes, literally, you can drag one of our smart steps onto your canvas and get going with Motiva. The top, in terms of impact, so thinking about all of those levers that you can pull, I kind of highlighted some of them here that we see consistently having impact, and it's sort of in order here. So in terms of highest impact, if you are testing, and the deeper you're testing, the more impact we've seen our users have. That's going to provide the best opportunity for not only on a per step basis getting better opens, better clicks, that sort of thing, but really if you're doing it right, you're using it to inform your content strategy as well as your targeting and segmentation strategy. And so we've designed our version of this in a very specific way. It works on the canvas. Doesn't matter how complicated that canvas is. And you can test as many versions of something as you want to. And we regularly have customers testing 15, 20, even 25 different versions of a single email. And that sounds like a huge burden, huge lift, but with Motiva, it makes it super easy. You just give us the population to work with, you give us the variations from your asset library, and we take care of the rest, from setting up the experiments to running the experiments to automatically optimizing towards those winners there. So from an impact point of view, it's hands down the best thing that you can do. And even if you're just doing the sort of simplistic version that comes with Eloqua, if you're doing it right, and you do have to set up the experiment right if you're using theirs, it will have some really good impact. It's sort of that building that culture of exploration, experimentation, that's really going to give your marketing team that kind of extra oomph, that extra capability that in the end, especially from an attribution point of view, is going to provide better results. So message testing for the win. And I can go as deep into that topic as folks are willing to go, but it's a favorite of ours. And that's actually how we got started with Motiva, is doing that. We're still the only marketing tech out there that does it in a particular way. And if you think about how you use Google AdWords, or if you're using Facebook ads or something like that, it's a similar sort of tech we've brought over to email. So it's very, very powerful if you're doing it right. STO is another area. We see some really good lift with Motiva's STO. We just got some results back from a customer that did something like 300% better open rate by using the Motiva STO step. This is a good one. It's changing. I don't know if you guys saw the last week's Apple announcement. So any STO system that's based on opens only, open signals only, is going to have a challenge going forward. The Motiva step is a lot more complicated and complex. And we're actually not only looking at opens, we're looking at a fuller range of signals to give us a sense of when people are ready to engage. And then the Motiva step adapts to whatever those preferences are on a per contact basis. The other thing that's come up recently, and a good place for impact, kind of non-intuitive actually, but frequency management. So how often are you emailing your audiences? And this has now been wrapped up with compliance. We have a surprising number of enterprise clients now where the legal department is mandating kind of a frequency or touch point management limit for the company. And so we didn't design it for this, but the Motiva FM system, think of it as a global traffic cop that you can put in place, set a limit, and you'll never go over that on a per contact basis. So it adapts to the best frequency kind of strategy there. And then finally, and I saw this in some of the priorities, segmentation and persona intelligence. One of the great things that comes for free whenever we're using any of the Motiva steps is we can surface new ideas for segments or responsive populations that are really keyed into some version of what you're doing. And that can be a great way to tune up your email campaigns, but also take those insights over to other channels, to PPC, to web journey design, all of those sorts of things. So that's kind of my top kind of 4 areas where we see consistently the best kind of impact with us. One of the things that's come up recently is just what's different between Motiva and Oracle AI. It's just sort of a really simplistic thumbnail. They're pretty different products, and they solve kind of different things. The only places where we compete, I guess, directly are send time optimization. What we're doing with subject line analysis, very different, and fatigue analysis, also very different. So I described a little bit about Motiva's approach to this. Our send time AI actually adapts dynamically over time and looks not only at history, but also takes a really complex multi-layered approach to signals analysis in always experimenting with what's a better strategy for this given audience member or contact. And we can pull things like, light modeling and some other fancy techniques that give us just a better sense of what the audiences respond to and what they don't, and adapt to that over time. Oracle's approach is history heavy, I would say. What they tend to do is privilege the last open signal that they saw as the preferred open time and send time both. And then if they don't have history on that contact, they will send that email to the entire segment immediately. So basic differences there. Subject line analysis, we're using a natural language processing and give you a kind of real-time set of advice or suggestions on how you can improve those subject lines. Oracle is giving you a really simplistic sort of thumbs up, thumbs down kind of thing and prediction based on past email performance of whether that subject line is good or not good. So it's just different in the way that they do it. If you don't need a lot of analysis, that might be a better solution. If your folks actually need some advice, need some suggestions, then Motiva is going to be the better choice there. And then fatigue analysis, the 2 bottom ones are a little bit linked in our minds, but we've noticed that over the last 5 years or so, we've seen more and more of these probabilistic AI spam filters that have come up in, various different guises. But what they're doing is very different from kind of the stuff you might have seen in the past with rules-based spam filtering. And so the basic difference is those servers, those destination servers, are talking to one another in real time and automatically modeling whether an incoming email is problematic, is malicious, spam, whatever. And because of that, a lot of legitimate marketing automation, marketing emails are getting caught in those spam filters. So the signal that we're getting back into Eloqua, or whatever you're using, it doesn't matter what it is more and more problematic as we see it. And so I know KP is going to talk about Eloqua cleanup, but this is a major area where we see some need. And so we're digging in from a data science point of view to solve it for customers. So those two areas, fatigue and just general deliverability, are actually linked more tightly than you might think. So that's kind of the top level differences. And happy to stick around and answer more questions if you want to get into a discussion or just want to go deeper on any of this stuff. But I'll stick around for the rest of this, and feel free to raise your hand and ask. And I'll leave it there for now.
All right. Awesome, Dave. Anybody, if you have questions, guys, either you can raise your hand or pop it in the Q&A or the chat. If not, or if it comes through while I'm talking about Eloqua cleaning tips, we will try to address your question towards the end of the meeting here. We're going to have an open forum. So I don't see anything. Let me just give it a minute, look for anybody that might have raised their hand in the list of attendees. I don't see it. All right, so then we'll keep moving, but just feel free, guys, to pop your questions over there. Or if you want to reach out to Dave directly, you can do so. All right. Let me share my screen again. And Dave, thank you very much. The first topic I'm going to cover with Eloqua cleaning tips is related to email deliverability, which was one of the last things you just touched on there. So we didn't plan that, guys, but that kind of teed me up here. So a year ago, I presented in, well, I was in Boston at an Eloqua user group, and somebody else was presenting about Eloqua cleaning tips. And it got me thinking, this is kind of like Marie Kondoing your Eloqua instance. If you don't know who Marie Kondo is, I need to share that because I'm going to refer to her and some of her philosophies in doing this. So she is this woman right here. She's known across the globe for helping people in their personal lives to get their shit together, to put it bluntly. She goes into homes and will meet with people. Like, there's a show in the United States where she does that, and there's a translator there that helps to communicate between, like, say, the parents who have 3 kids and their house is a disaster, or in some cases it's one person in a home who has craziness going on and how that impacts our mental health. But she helps people to get their things in order and let things go. Like, if it doesn't have meaning for you, to let it go. Well, some of this stuff applies to Eloqua and our technologies as well at work. So first thing is, she talks about tackle categories, not rooms, so that you can be more realistic about getting that thing done and not being overwhelmed. Like, you can go into your, if you have a walk-in closet and it's packed and you know you need to organize it, but it's like 10 years in and it's worse than it was when you first moved in, and it can become overwhelming. So it's tackle maybe just the shoes in there or the underwear. I don't know what you have in your walk-in closet, but just tackle one section of it, not the entire room. Or say, I'm going to spring clean my house, or that can be overwhelming. So the first thing, I have 2 things here for email deliverability, and there's so much more to it, but I'm trying to hit on the most important things that I would recommend in my 16 years of doing this. So the first thing is, do you have hard bounce back and inactive contacts? That's a rhetorical question because we all do in our Eloqua instance. Hard bounce back, for anybody that isn't familiar, that means their email address no longer works. It's invalid. And most times it's because somebody either gave you a bad email, or more commonly, they moved to another organization, or maybe they retired, or they just stopped working and that email address no longer works because it's not used anymore. Inactive contacts are typically, this is a preference thing, like you can say how long you prefer before somebody's inactive in your Eloqua database, but oops, I forgot my video. Okay, I'm really a person speaking right now. This is not a recording. Well, it is a recording if you're watching it later, but so inactive contacts, typically what we would say an inactive contact in Eloqua is somebody who you have sent a communication, like you have sent them an email and they have not responded to it in any fashion, open, clicked, unsubscribed, opted into more things, or you've sent them a text message using an app with Eloqua and they've not responded or done anything in any channel, and that Eloqua's not tracked them on your website, they haven't submitted any forms, all those things that Eloqua tracks, and for a certain period of time, usually 6 months at the minimum. Some people will make it like 2 years to say somebody's inactive. It depends on your business. It really does. Like if you're more short-term sales cycles or before somebody subscribes or purchases, then usually your inactive threshold is less amount of time. If your sales cycle typically takes 2 years before somebody buys a huge piece of machinery that you sell, I don't know what you sell or your salespeople sell, but then typically you're going to have a longer period of time because there might be naturally more times where they don't have anything they're engaging in, maybe. Anyway, there are apps for Eloqua that can help to identify contacts that should be hard bounced, or it can look at certain parts of your Eloqua database. It can look at all of your Eloqua contacts. You usually pay with these apps per contact. And what it can do a couple of things. These apps all have their, bells and whistles, but basically they can say this is a valid email address, or it's not a valid email address, and confirm it's a hard bounce. For your inactives, it can also do that. You literally take your entire Eloqua database and provide the email addresses from it to Bright Verify or SureShot with their safe to send app. And ultimately, it can fix some things. Like there might be an email address where somebody just typed in on the form to get into Eloqua .cmo instead of .com. Maybe they're a CMO and they love to type their title a lot and they forgot that their email address has .com at the end, not .cmo. I don't know, just being stupid. But people do incorrectly type in their email address. It's a real thing that happens. So this can help to correct that actually for you automatically. And then it can look in your email list of emails. Let's say you do have 10,000 and you want it to look at all 10,000. If there's a spam trap email address in there, it will identify it depending on if you're paying for that feature to be done or assessed of your Eloqua database. So they're pretty cool apps. They do more than what I've just stated, but if you're in a situation where you do have some budget and you can do this, it's one of the best things that you can do to look at your database as far as are these real email addresses? Are they valid email addresses? And then have a cleaner database of just people to contact via email at the very least. So first tip is use one of those apps if you would like. You can do this manually. Like before these apps existed, 10 years ago or longer, I would export out our hard bounce back email addresses from Eloqua, and I would manually go through and look to see if there were any misspellings like the .cmos, or if somebody worked for a university and they didn't type in at the end of their email .edu, they did something like DUE, I don't know. Then I would fix those in Eloqua, fix them in the spreadsheet, flag them, and then fix them in Eloqua. So there's some stuff you can do here manually. You don't have to necessarily do a paid app, but it saves you time at the end of the day. And then the other tip is I would remove, after you've done something like that to validate the hard bounces are really hard bounces, if you wish to, you should remove the hard bounce back contacts from Eloqua, say every quarter, or at least annually. We do it about once a year here at Sojourn. Keep this in mind. Some people are like, well, wait, if I permanently delete this contact from Eloqua, even if they don't have a real email address, isn't that not good for compliance reasons? Well, what happens in Eloqua is if you delete me and I'm a hard bounce back in your Eloqua instance, Eloqua still has a separate table that retains that activity of me hard bouncing, nothing else about me. So it has my email address and the date I hard bounced, so that if I ever get back into your Eloqua instance again, say somebody uploads me, then, or this another system pushes me back in, you have to watch out for that too in this. When you delete records, make sure they don't get automatically back into Eloqua, say from your CRM or other systems. But anyway, Eloqua will always know that somebody's a hard bounce back. It retains that for 25 months. Not always, not forever. Another thing to think about with email deliverability, keeping things as tight as you can, yours clean, is your reputation, your email sender reputation. So do you know what your sender reputation is? Everybody here, at some point, you should identify it. Now, you might say, KP, I'm not in charge of that. That's somebody else on our team. Okay, then not everybody here needs to know that. But if they're not doing this, somebody should. I used to, when I was a marketer, one of the CMOs that I worked for, every quarter is a part of my presentation in the QBR, which was her leading it for marketing, but we were in front of our CEO, our CFO, a few other people, CIO, all the chief officers. I came in for like 10 minutes into the presentation. And one of the things that was important for them to know was, how well are we keeping our reputation with our number one channel to communicate with our customers and our prospects, which was email there. That was the best channel, and it still is for a lot of people. So I always had to keep track of that. I kept track of it on a monthly basis, and then each quarter averaged it. So anyways, my goal with using one of the tools here, Sender Score, they give you your reputation score by your IP address you're sending from, or the subdomain out of Eloqua, and 100 is the best. We got worried if we got below 80. Not worried, we would look into it and figure out what might have happened. Something that could have happened is my next question here. Do you know if your email you're sending from, your email subdomain, has been blacklisted? Notice I'm not saying blacklist. There's no more blacklist, whitelist. That's racist, to be blunt. So blacklisted is what you may have said in the past, blacklist. So just a little something as a tip there, not related to Eloqua, but you can check to see if you're sending subdomain. You might have a couple in Eloqua that you send from, not the email address, but it's usually called your hard bounce back subdomain or branding and deliverability. It's the most unfun, unsexy part of Eloqua, but you should know what you're sending from. And let me show you really quick in Eloqua where you can find this, because in my mind, I'd be like, well, this is nice, KP, but where do I find it? Well, I haven't finished this email I'm going to send you guys later today, but where you'd go is you pull up the email, and under settings, down here, this is obviously you all know where you can set up your reply to name, reply to address, from name, an address. Down below, you've got the bounce back address. In my case, we would look up info.sojournsolutions.com. We have one subdomain that we send from out of Eloqua. This is also what's used for Eloqua to capture if somebody hard bounces or soft bounces. It comes back to Oracle through that subdomain. I'm not going to get in the nitty gritty of it, but that's where you would find it. So again, you open the email, you go to settings, go to bounce back address. And again, some of you will have a couple. You should monitor all of them. I would recommend at least monthly, but at the very least quarterly. And there are tools that I've listed out here that you can use to go check your reputation, as well as if you're blacklisted or not. If you are blacklisted, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't mean all your emails sent out of Eloqua won't get to the recipients. It will harm that. It will not help you, but you can remedy it. Some of them actually just have you go to a website to validate you're actually real people sending these emails, not a spammer that's systematically sending out emails and just spraying and praying. So just note, Litmus is one of my favorite ones. You do have to pay to use that, but they are amazing at email, all things email, and providing best practices and benchmarks. We're actually going to try to have them on an upcoming Eloqua user group. I'm trying to keep a theme of email for the next couple Eloqua user groups, at least probably in July or August. I think they're going to be here for July. And the reason being is we're still hearing, and others that I follow outside of the Oracle community completely, that are agnostic to technologies, that just talk about email and marketing and leveraging it as a channel, are saying it's still the number one channel as far as your bang for your buck, your return on it. So I think it's something that we also know our customers that use Eloqua rely on the most. So that's why I want to try to get you guys tips on how you can continue to monitor your email and do even better email marketing. One part of your marketing, right? It's just one piece of it, one channel to communicate with people. Okay, so the next area of tips here is organization related and reporting. So Marie Kondo will say, only keep things that bring you joy, and I added, and revenue. But as you can see there in that photo, this is kind of a classic thing she does with people, is she has them put all their stuff in a spot and pile it up, and it becomes eye-opening of, how much over excessive stuff you have. Like, you don't need, this woman here probably doesn't need like 50 sweaters, it looks like. Who knows? There could be like a child underneath there, hopefully not. But this has helped me in my personal life. I'll tell you, between following her, not like, I think I've watched her show once. I've just read more. And The Minimalist, it's a documentary on Netflix, but also they have a short book that's really good. This stuff helps you so much personally, to let go of things. And it kind of can go back to like traumas too. Anyway, not a psychologist, not going to go there. But the first thing here is, if you have assets in Eloqua that are older than 2 years and they're not needed, like, you don't need to use them anymore, consider deleting them from Eloqua or archiving them. So assets, just to clarify, I mean like emails, landing pages, forms, segments, campaigns, images, PDFs, etc. If your Eloqua stuff is not needed anymore, and it's like the 2-year mark is usually the threshold some people use to say that, okay, let's delete it or remove it. I would look through and consider doing this. And thankfully you can archive a lot of things now. So you don't have to, if you're not ready to delete it, because that can be scary, you can archive. And then the other reason for doing this is not just to be able to find assets better and keep things more organized in your folders, but it's also going to impact reporting. As we all know, when you try to pull up a report, you have a long list of emails. Perhaps if you're doing an email overview report, it makes it harder it takes longer to load, for one. So performance wise, takes more time. It's not as efficient. And then it can be harder to find things. So there's getting rid of the assets or archiving them hides them from that view, but it also reiterates using your naming convention. And then I do the first thing. I will get rid of things we don't need anymore. And then we'll go back and sometimes clean up assets we still need to keep in Eloqua. Like, let's say it's 6 months old and I want to keep it in there, so I can still do reporting off of it. But then if it's not following our naming convention, it's okay. It's a good time. Now is the best time maybe to go ahead and start cleaning up those assets that don't have the naming convention used. So the tip here, I've already basically said it, but is to manually update those Eloqua asset names and then archive or delete the ones you don't need. You can do it one by one, or you can actually mass delete or mass archive in some areas of Eloqua using the API. And that will do it in like minutes, if not seconds. So like I said, you're wicked fast. So just keep that in mind. If you don't know API coding, you can pay people like us to do that. We're happy to do it for you. Or you can probably learn a little bit about it through the Help Center. Maybe use something like Postman to do it. But just be careful, because if you're not really familiar with using Eloqua's API, you could like literally delete all your emails in one swipe, and it could be not a good thing. So just be careful. And I'll give you guys a tip on that. If you ever accidentally, because I did this as an Eloqua user, I think it was my 3rd year into using Eloqua, I deleted en masse, I think it was 12,000 contacts from the Eloqua instance I was in, which had a couple 100,000 contacts, but still, it was like one of the reps, I was working on a campaign for him, and I don't know what I did, but it was the old Eloqua interface, and it was easier to delete things by accident there. I deleted basically his whole territory's worth of contacts to invite to an event. And talk about the poop factor. Well, I called Oracle support. At that time, it was Eloqua support. Oracle hadn't bought Eloqua yet, and they were able to recover those 12,000 contacts. Of course, they were still on a server somewhere, but it sucked because they gave me the CSV file with everything in one column. So I had, I think, like 80 or 90 fields in our Eloqua instance at that time. And it was painful to scrub that list to get it ready to actually reload to Eloqua. It was never the same, and we lost all their activities. So if you do delete contacts from Eloqua, that's something to keep in mind, is once you delete them, their activity history, like that they visited your website, opened emails, clicked through things, that all gets deleted as well. But it does keep the hard bounce back and global unsubscribe activities, that's it, on a separate table in Eloqua. Okay, last tip area here is segmentation and reporting related. Marie will say, don't let nostalgia cloud your judgment, right? So even though you have this beautiful little necklace that your grandmother wore and gave to you and it's special, don't let that nostalgia keep you from passing it on to maybe your daughter or somebody who's going through something that you know this would mean a lot to and it would help them. maybe the necklace from the grandmother wasn't a good example, but maybe it's sneakers, right? Like those were cool sneakers. You won a basketball game in those. Awesome. Well, maybe somebody down the street could actually use them because they don't have great shoes. So I don't know, things like that. Back to Eloqua. So there's a lot you can do to improve Eloqua. I'm only touching on like 3 categories here, but we see a lot of people who are not tracking how they get people into Eloqua, how they get contacts into Eloqua. And lead sources are 2 fields in Eloqua that come with everybody's Eloqua instance. There's lead source original. It's like lead source dash original, lead source dash most recent. Original is supposed to be updated once and only once. So we always know how that contact got into Eloqua. Lead source most recent is intended to be updated as somebody does something. Like if they first came into Eloqua because they attended an Eloqua user group webinar meeting, that would always be their lead source original. And if that's what happened today, the lead source most recent would match. It would say something like webinar or user group is actually our lead source value that we use. So then if a month later they fill out a survey, perhaps your lead source most recent would be survey response or something like that. Whatever your lead sources are, which typically align with your CRM if you have one, or your system of record. Sometimes marketing owns what those say though. Typically marketing will have a good say in it. If not, make the decision on lead source values. So tip here is you can use the app called the Contact Washing Machine app for Eloqua. It's free, no cost to it, in Program Canvas to standardize your lead sources. So if you do happen to have not valid lead sources coming into Eloqua, it can stamp them with the clean value. You can do this also for things like state and country, but and then if you have a situation to go back where you have no lead sources, you can actually do a little bit of logic in Program Canvas to figure out that somebody came in from, say, your CRM system. So we can stamp their lead source original with CRM perhaps as that lead source original. And then the other thing is your pick list. So pick lists in Eloqua don't automatically get updated. They always get updated by a human being typically. So of course you can create a custom app or some solution to automate this, but by and large, 90% of people manually rely on updating their Eloqua pick list, even if you're integrated with like Salesforce CRM. So my thing here I'm asking you guys is, do you routinely look at your Eloqua pick list? Do you make sure that if, say, in your CRM, I don't know, the industry pick list was changed, did you update it in Eloqua? Did the data get updated in Eloqua after that? So my example here is just country, because that's one of the most common ones people think about is if your country contains United States, USA, US, blah, 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 all those different dirty values, and we want to standardize on United States or whatever the clean value is, then we can have, again, that washing machine app look for all those incorrect values, I call them dirty values, and standardize with the clean value, like United States, whatever it needs to be. So that washing machine app can do a whole lot more. I've presented in another user group about all the crazy stuff that it can do. And I think I have here as well, maybe a year ago. But anyway, just wanted to make sure you guys know that these are things you should keep an eye on, ideally, in most Eloqua instances, and do something with. So the doing something with is where like you'd use the washing machine app. And then that's it for tips for me. So I want to see, I know there was a question from Carly. Carly, do you want to speak, or would you rather just chat through this? Let me know and I can make it so you can talk about your question here. Maybe if you chat here, let's see. Right, bear with me. Somebody raised their hand too, and I can't figure out through Zoom who it was. It doesn't show it.
Hello.
All right, there we go. It was you with the hand raised. Okay.
Yes, sorry, I was trying to unmute myself, but you had to do it.
Yep.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. So right now we are not fully integrated. We're just integrated one way, to give a little background, but we are trying to communicate with our conference attendees about specific hotel COVID updates, location COVID updates, things like that. So we're sending out emails to them, and therefore we need to somehow try to be notified that they're hard bouncing. But when I look at a multi-step campaign, you get that little kind of exclamation point warning, but we were hoping to try and send them through a shared list and then export that shared list on a daily or weekly basis in order to then call those people for those updates. But I don't see anything in the multi-step campaign in which there is like a decision step to push just hard bounces through to a shared list.
Right.
Anyone have suggestions? We tried to do sent email and that did not work, as those people that hard bounce technically didn't get the email itself.
Right. All right, so I'm going to open it up. I'm looking, well, I want to ask the users, does anybody have a suggestion, or maybe you've solved this yourself before? I'm thinking about it myself. I'd have to look at the campaign canvas, but if somebody else wants to speak to this, I'd love to have somebody else besides me talk.
Yeah, Carly, this is Dave. I'm pretty sure we've got a couple of users that have figured out how to do this.
Yeah, here we go. Somebody
Yeah.
raised their hand. I believe Holly did.
Hey, so in my understanding, you're wanting to send hard bounces to a shared list?
Correct.
Okay, so you would have to create like a shared filter that looks for them. So create that information in a shared filter that says, have they hard bounced in the last, 1 day or whatever your time frame is. And then from that shared filter, add them to your shared list.
Sounds familiar.
Okay, perfect.
And you can do that either in campaign canvas or a program canvas.
Right.
Perfect. And this would be my cat's helping me here. So look for the marked as hard bounce. As of now means like anybody in the database has hard bounce, right? So you'd get your criteria right here. If you want it to be as of now, or whatever you need to change it to. If you want to add any other criteria, you could say, well, if they're in the campaign and they're getting to that step, this is what I would use. And then in order to choose this from a campaign canvas, though, you can't choose a segment inside of a decision. So you'd have to, well, let me just do this really quick. I know we only have 2 minutes. I'll just put it there and delete it later. Don't do that.
Yeah, just to piggyback on something that KP pointed out in terms of the definition of a hard bounce in Eloqua that we've noticed that we need to handle is there are quite a few cases that are in fact hard bounces that are marked soft or even just fully delivered. And we're finding that we need to set up new filters to capture some of those. So an example that we see all the time is an SMTP code called no recipient, which is effectively address does not exist, but it's being marked as valid when it comes back in. So we need some better, Motiva's figuring out how to do this, but you can do this manually by just cleaning up that data and looking at the bounce back report in Eloqua, if you guys know what that is. And that gives you the full information on what's happening both on the soft and hard side.
That's a good point, Dave. You guys might have seen, so I just showed, this is what it would look like on the canvas. So for Carly, you create your share filter first, and you don't have to do it on a segment like I did, but I like to see the numbers get pulled live before I use any share filter in a campaign, and then just pick it here. And then you've got, of course, the add to shared list. So that's how you could accomplish this. And like Holly said, it works on both the campaign and program canvas. And then to what Dave just pointed out, if we go in the email section of the reports catalog and insight, that deliverability report is awesome. Email bounce back history with message. This is the one that will show the details of a hard or a soft bounce and the reason why. But we are out of time, so I gotta respect that from everybody that you've all been here this whole time. I appreciate it. And if you have any other questions, I think there might have been more that came through. I'm going to look at those after this afternoon. Our next Eloqua user group meeting is technically not the 3rd Thursday of July because I'll be on vacation, but it's July 22nd at 11 a.m. It's actually the 4th Thursday of July. There's 5 in July, I think. So anyway, I'll invite everybody. You'll get an invitation from me via email. We'll also post it on our social channels. So hopefully you'll join us. Thank you all very much for joining today. Dave, thanks so much for presenting. If you have questions for Dave or myself, please feel free to reach out, but I will be in touch this afternoon with the recording.
Thanks all.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of your day and weekend.
Cheers.